creative friends, this is Joy. So today I want to make little mini journals, and I have a couple of different ways that you can make them. And the first way is where you take your piece of paper, you fold it in half, and then fold it in half again, and then you fold each end inwards so that you have each end folded in half, and then you cut from the outside all the way up to the one from the end. And you can either make the journal all that, but what I ended up doing is taking this a step further, and I folded up the ends on each side, and then when you take and you would just kind of like accordion style go back and forth, and then this would fold down, and then this would again accordion style go back and forth. So when you make the journal and you open it up, you got these little pockets inside. And then you would you could either glue to hold these pages shut, and glue along the bottom here and on the edge to hold this shut, or you can do like what I did. Here's an example of one that I did like that. I just put a ribbon around it and glued the ribbon across the front and across the back to hold it together. And I used a piece of scrapbook paper that's two-sided, so that way you have it decorated on the outside and the inside, and then you can see you have the little pockets inside this journal. And make a really cute little journal. And then I decorated the front, and I don't think I glued anything except for the ribbon. No, see, all of this is still kind of open, but I did, I mean, you could glue it, but I didn't. I just glued the ribbon around the front and the back to kind of hold it all together. So that's that journal type, and I'll do a quick one like that. And you can do it either with the two-sided scrapbook paper, or you can decorate a piece of paper on both sides to get this kind of a journal if you're interested in that. So the second journal that I'm going to show you how you can make is you take a piece of paper, and this is the way Jenna Billy was showing you how to make a journal. And you fold the paper in half, and then you fold the paper in half again, and then you fold the two sides in, kind of like folding the other way, the way that I just showed you the first one. But in this one, you just cut the middle part out from end to end, so that when you stand this up, you can push it together and then make a journal like that, to where you have a journal with pages. You can glue the bottom. This one here, you'd want to glue the bottoms of these pages, and then that way you have pockets on the side of two of the pages and pockets on the top of two of the pages in order to put tags. So I'm going to make a journal similar to this style. And then I have a third style. I can find the other one that's a little bit more complicated, and it looks something like this. So you would fold your paper, see if I can do this because I cut them so you can see how it goes together, in half this away, and then the ends would go folded in like that. And then you would fold the long way 3 different ways in thirds, and then you would cut from the end up to the middle or the next to the last on this side, and on this side you would do just the opposite. And then the way this would go together is you would start out, so let me turn this around because this is your back cover and this is your front. So you would start out and you would just fold accordion style all the way around until you had this all together, and then you would bring the front and the back together, the last two, and you would glue those together. And so then you would have, and fold that over, so then you would have your front, and then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your back, 6 pages. Which this is a little bit more complicated, but I like it because it gives you a lot more pages than with this other version, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. So, I mean, you know, you can use either style, or even this one gives you, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. And then you got little pockets inside of it. So any of these styles of miniature journals will work. So I am going to go through and create each one of these types of journals. Oh, and this one here I wanted to show you, actually I did make one using this style, and this is the journal I created. And what I did was I had a large, very large stock piece of poster board that was left over from some other project, and I folded it, you know, like measured it off and folded it just like this, and then I used scrapbook paper to cover it with, and I made little pockets and tags inside this journal, and I really like the way that this turned out. And I add some embellishments, and I have some tags where I had scraps, so I just used washi tape and taped a little pocket on here. And then I also have in the top of this, I have bigger tags that pull out, and I used a a punch for a circle to kind of get that half circle there. And let's see, I don't know if I can remember all of the pockets and stuff because this did turn out kind of thick, but there's a little tag there. And then this, I decided to put a piece of paper on there and make it like 2 pockets, I mean 2 tags, and there's a big one in the side. Here's a big one. Again, you know, I just decorated it with, oops, that flower come off. Decorated it with scrap paper. Here's a little miniature tag, and then I used the scraps from covering the pages to make the different tags. And then here's one in the different pockets where I have like multiple tags. Again, multiple tags and a big tag. So you can see that you can really, you know, do some decorating in these little journals. I mean, oops, that got stuck on there. They really turn out so cute when you're done. You can do a lot with them. Here's another tag. Oops, can I get that in there? There it goes. And a bigger tag. And another tag. And some little tags. So this little journal, oops, was made, and I decorated the front with some flowers and a butterfly and a ribbon. So this little journal was made using this method, and depending on the size of the sheet of paper that you use, depends on the size journal you ended up with. And like I said, this here actually was made from a very large piece of paper that I got that is like poster board, so it's really thick and heavy. It's a pretty sturdy journal. And this here was just made from a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper, so you can see the difference in the size. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make a couple of these different journals in these 3 different ways and fast forward through the rest to show you how I create these journals. Thank you for watching. So I decided to use this piece of double-sided scrapbook paper that I found in my stash, and I am folding it the one way and use a bone folder to get a good crease, folding it the other way, and again creasing it really well, and then folding the ends in so that I have it folded in 3 different places. And I have 4 sections one way and 2 sections the other. So the long sections, I'm measuring 1.5 inches to decide on the depth of my pockets, and I'm folding that up, and I'm doing the same on the other side. I was just going to fold it, but then I'm like, well, if I don't measure, they're not going to be even, and one's going to be like, 2 inches and the other 1.5 inches or some kind of goofy thing, so I decided I better measure. And then I started to use the scissors, but I'm kind of wonky with cutting, so I got this little letter opener that seems to work better to cut the paper up the middle. And then after I folded it together, I really didn't like the way it looked, so I reversed it, and I like that much better. So here's my little book that I made out of this piece of scrapbook paper, and I got some double-sided tape, and I'm taping closed the pockets that I made on each end. And so that's what I'm doing here, just putting a little piece of double-sided tape on each end of the pockets. And then I believe I go and tape the 2 sides together. You'll see that here in a minute. So I fold it up, and then I realized it'd probably be good to put tape along the front edge of that one piece where it comes together to keep that closed. And then I find a piece of ribbon in my stash that I really thought went well with this book, and I use some heavy-duty glue to glue that across the front and across the back. And I'm just trying to even up, the strings on, or the ribbon on either side of the book. And then once it's even, I turn it over and then put a bead of glue across the back. And then I add a clip to kind of hold it on there until that dries. And I grab my Prima flowers, and I go through and find a little arrangement of flowers. I add a brad, and I attach that with a heavy-duty glue dot to the front. So that's pretty much that book, and I set it aside so that the glue can dry. And now that it's dried, I decided that I was going to add little tags to the little pockets. And so I grabbed some scraps that I had, and I measure, I think it was like 1/4 to a 1/2 inch in from the sides of the pockets, and then the height of the pocket, so that the tags will be smaller, than the width and the height of the book, where they'll fit into the pockets nicely. And so I divide up this scrap paper into enough tags to put a tag in each one of the pockets. And the paper that I used had rounded corners, so I got my corner rounder and I rounded the tops of both corners on each one of the tags, except for, of course, the corner that already was rounded, because I wanted the top corners to be rounded, but I left the bottom corners not rounded. And then I had a couple of extra bigger pieces left over that I thought would work nice in one of the other journals. So I'm kind of just quickly finding in the middle and punching a hole in the tags. I'm putting a couple of them together so that I can quickly go through and punch a hole in the tags on the top edge where I rounded the corners. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I have a tag that fits in each one of these pockets in this little journal. And you'll see at the end where I went back and added a little bit more to those tags to kind of decorate it more. So I have this piece of, it's a coffee news, and I folded it long way. I folded it the short way in half, and then I folded each end again just like I did the one previous. But this time I'm just cutting the middle part of it out, and I'm trying to get a big enough hole to get my envelope opener there inside there. And so I got it cut across the middle like you see here on this one. I just cut it across the middle and then make a book out of it that way. But I decided I'm going to take scrap papers, old book pages, and some music notes and tear that up and adhere that to the paper to, cover up some of what's on there, but also to give it more interest. So I'm just using a Extreme, it's called glue stick, which is a heavy duty glue stick to glue those pieces down to the paper. And so here you see where I've got it, covered for about as much as I'm going to cover it. And then I grab a couple of different shades of blue and just kind of go over the whole thing to give it some color, because I decided that, I wanted it to be a blue color. And here you see where it's all dried and then put together. That's what it looks like. So I go with my double-sided tape and tape the bottoms of this whole book. So along the bottom I put the double-sided tape and I tape it, and I don't close the sides because I want side pockets in this particular little journal. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just doing the bottoms of each one of the sections to make sure that the bottoms is at least closed. And plus I want tags and pockets in the top. So 2 of them have pockets in the sides and 2 of them have pockets in the top. And here's these extra tags that I had left over that I made for this little journal. And I have this ribbon, it's material type ribbon that I thought would go good with these tags, and I'm just cutting off a piece and tying it to each one of the tags that I made for this little book. And I'm putting 2 tags in the 2 side pockets, and I've got 2 tags in the 2 top pockets. And I do go in my stash and find some little more embellishments and stuff for this particular book as well, and I'll show you that at the end, the embellishments that I added to this particular book. And there you have that book with the 4 little tags. So then this is another piece of scrapbook paper, and I'm showing you how I measured it out to get it divided up. And I was going to cut it, but I thought it'd probably be easier at this point to use my bone folder to get those nice creases in there along each of those lines before I cut it. So that's what I'm doing here, is just put my creases in before I cut it. And this would have probably worked better with either thinner scrapbook paper or a double-sided paper, because this particular piece of scrapbook paper was so thick that by the time I folded it up and then tried to put the 2 ends together, it wasn't really closing properly. And so you'll see here at the end that what I end up doing is actually making another piece, cutting another piece of paper to make a cover for this book. If it was thinner scrapbook paper, I would have been able to tape both the front and the back together, and then it would have worked. But unfortunately, this paper was so thick that, see there, I'm trying to put the 2 ends together, and it's not closing properly. And I thought, well, it makes a nice little book without those two ends adhered together, so that means I'm going to have to make like a cover for it. So that's what I end up doing with this particular book. But if it was a double-sided scrapbook paper, it probably would have been fine, because then you would have had something on the other side, the front and the back. Or if it was thinner scrapbook paper, it would have been fine. It would have worked fine. But this was really, really thick paper. So here I'm adding the double-sided tape to tape some of this together, the bottom and then the side together where it needed tape, just so that it would stay together. So I'm just doing that really quickly. And this did end up with a couple of little pockets, and I actually, you'll see here in a little bit, I had some black tags that I used with this little book. So here I'm measuring out, I got this other piece of scrapbook paper that I liked, and so I'm measuring out a cover for it. So I'm determining, you know, how wide it needs to be, plus some room for the spine. I think the spine was like 1/4 of an inch. It wasn't real big, a real big spine, but there was a bit of a spine there, so I measured that out so that there was room for the spine, and then measured out for the back cover so that there would be a front, a spine, and then a back cover. So here I cut it out, and then I bend it and crease it on either side of the spine. And I put the tape on the spine and then around the edges of the front and the back cover to tape this to the book that I just made. And all three actually turn out really cute. They're all three very different. So, you know, it depends on, I guess, you know, what style you like, and, you know, how many, you know, pockets and tags that you want, and how many pages you want, because one of them in the beginning, as I had said, gives you 4 pages. Another style gives you 5 pages, and then the third style gives you 6 pages. So all three of these are different, but all three of them make really cute little journals. And like I said before, the size of the journal that you end up with depends on the size of the piece of paper that you start with. So, you know, you could just go crazy, have fun, make all kinds of little journals. So stay tuned for a flip through of all three of the journals and how I ended up decorating each of them. Okay, so here are the 3 journals that I ended up making. This is the first one that I made. And this is the one with the little pockets. And I made these little tags to go on the pockets. And I went and in my stash of stickers, and found some really cute stickers to put on here, and some butterflies, and tied a little string on the top of each one of the tags. So that's what I did with the tags. And then I can write whatever, you know, on the back, or do whatever I want to the backs of the tags. So this here is the first little one that I made. This is the second one, and this particular one, I had this, well, the idea came from these tags. I had these black tags in my stash that had this string on it, and I actually had some extra string, so I thought that that would go well as a tie onto this little book to match the string there. So I cut a piece of string, I glued it around the book like I did with the ribbon on this book. I glued a key to the front, and then on the inside I just went through my stickers and found some stickers that I thought would look cute in here, and added some little decorative embellishments to this book. And then I have the 3 pockets with the 3 little tags. And then I can do whatever I want with this little book. And And then the third one that I made was out of that bigger piece of paper from the Coffee News. I made the tags for it and tied this material, this ribbon material around the tags. And I have the two that are in the side pockets, and I have the two that are in the top pockets. And then I found a couple little things in my stash to decorate it with. I like this flower on the front. I think it looked really pretty. And then of course you have the side pocket. And then I found this little tab that I thought would look good on there. And then the tag in the top. And then this little kind of, I don't know what you call it, flower or floral thing. Another tag. And then another little floral thing. You know, that's the same as that, but just a little bit different color. And then the tag. So that is the 3 journals that I just made. And I hope you guys like them. And it gives you some ideas on some little journals that you can make for yourself. Talk to you guys again later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.